4. Observation Post 9983. Without facts, all the Cadian 101st had was speculation, and that was not good. Without evidence, a guardsman's mind turned to the worst possible eventualities, as a child in the dark will imagine monsters. Benedict did not care where the enemy were. What they needed were facts, and enemies' location and strength, how best to kill them. Benedict ran through all the units he could think of and tried to get a link through to them, but the channels were overloaded with the bellowing of men in battle. The men and women of the Cadian 101st listened in stunned silence to the Vox communications from the fields of Tyrock. Panicked shouts of surrounded units. Commanders desperately trying to locate their men. All the confusion and terror of war. It sounded like hell. Benedict punched the wall in his fury. "Powerless," he hissed, pacing up and down, trying to find an explanation for what was happening as the rumble of war shook Tyrock fields. "We're fricking powerless!" Had some hothead gone rogue? A perceived insult, perhaps. The Eye of Terror drove men mad. But as he listened, a thread of calm began to establish itself. It was one man's voice, cutting through the shouting and the screams. He gave commands, calmed terrified men down, and he started to bring the scattered survivors of Tyrock Fields together again into an army, fought chaos with order. "That's Creed," Benedict said, as he stood with one hand on the Vox, as if standing next to the general. "That's Ursakar E. Creed," he shouted. "Get Creed on the Vox. No, send him a message. Tell him Major Benedict of the 101st are stranded at Observation Post 9983. Mir tried, but the Vox channels were overloaded. After an hour of failing, he raised his hand. "There's going to be an announcement, sir." The whole 101st gathered in a rough horseshoe around the Vox. "Men and women of Cadia." It was Creed. He was speaking intimately. It was as if they were in the room with him. They felt his closeness. It was part of his magic. "We lost many today. Friends, sons, mothers, daughters, comrades. We withstood fire, bombardment, treachery and cowardice. And we did not flinch. We did not turn to ask if another would step up and take our place. We stood. We fought. And we strode forward into battle." There was a sound of distant cheers through the Vox, and Bendic's stomach ached. If only they could have been there in the battle. He pictured the scene, the vast Tyrock field stretching away, fires burning, Medicaid units looking for the injured. Creed's bullish silhouette, with a greatcoat slung over his shoulders, cigar stub in his hand. "Today, the High Command of Cadia have asked me to serve as Lord Castellan of Cadia." There were more cheers. The atmosphere in the room was so quiet, you could hear a man breathe. Benedict could imagine Creed's knuckles, white on the podium, waiting for the crowd to go silent. Creed's voice came again. "I have accepted the honour." Benedict and Dahl exchanged looks. There was a long pause, as the cheers of Tyrock Fields rang out. Creed was waiting. Benedict imagined him putting up his hands for silence. What happened today was no accident. It was no chance. This was orchestrated by a mind that has planned and plotted for thousands of years. The Despoiler. It is the hour that we have long foreseen. The chance to prove ourselves his match. More cheers. I offer you nothing but blood and battle. This is our part in a war that has lasted 10,000 years. And today, brothers, today you have won a great victory that will be remembered for another 10,000 years, or as long as the Imperium of mankind shall last. The sound of cheering was drowned out by a military band playing Flower of Cadia. The broadcast was clearly over. Turn it off, Benedict told Mir. There was stunned silence. Benedict stood by the Vox and looked into the faces of his soldiers. You heard what Creed had to say, and I know that you feel the same as me. We should be down there. Instead, we're here, in this throne-forsaken observation platform. I'm going to do all I can to sort this mess out. You'll all have the chance to strike a blow against our foes. I promise you that. The next day, dawn did not come. The skies of Cadia turned black as the great fleets of the Imperial Navy defense monitors and orbital defense platforms, the proud defenses that he had seen just days before from the decks of the Fidelitas Victor, were swept aside by the vast fleets of the Black Legion. Massed cruisers, landers, crash pods, and war hosts of the Despoiler filled the skies. Weeks turned to months, and the attitude changed from anger to despair. Creed's pronouncements over the Vox became more impassioned. People of Cadia, each speech would begin. We have smashed an armoured column at Casarellan. The enemy has landed on Cadian soil in great force. We are the generation upon whose shoulders lie the heavy duty of sending them all to their deaths. Creed's deep voice remained a constant, even when he had bad news to share. People of Cadia, the walls of Casa Batroc have been breached, but I am assured that the men there are fighting with grit and resolve, and it cannot be long before the enemy are trapped and isolated, and their forces entirely destroyed. People of Cadia, hold strong. We are the barb that holds the foe. Reinforcements are on their way. The High Lords of Terror commend you for your sacrifices. Hold the line. Repel the enemy. Do not give ground.